honestly, God has left a trail in history for people like you and me and others who are curious. Does this really make sense? Did Jesus really return from the dead and prove he's God and that Christianity is true and therefore we can trust what he says and so forth? I think God intentionally left evidence that leads us, that can be used to lead us to the conclusion that Jesus is who he claimed to be. You know, when I was in law school, one of my heroes was a guy who was the greatest lawyer in the world. He was later, I think it was, he was in the Guinness Book of World Records as the most successful defense attorney who ever lived. His name was Sir Lionel Luckhoo. Get this, you'll appreciate this. He won 247 murder trials in a row as a defense attorney, either before the jury or on appeal.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody's ever done. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records, greatest lawyer ever lived. He was a skeptic like I was about the resurrection. He thought, Jesus didn't return from the dead and prove. He says, give me a break. And then someone challenged him. Sir Lionel, you're the greatest lawyer. Have you ever taken your monumental legal skill and applied it to the historical record and come to an informed conclusion about whether or not Jesus did return from the dead? He said, no, I haven't, but I will. So he set out, he did what I did. He spent years investigating the evidence, and I'll recite to you one sentence he wrote that summarized his conclusion. He says, I say unequivocally that the evidence for the resurrection of Jesus Christ is so overwhelming that it compels acceptance by proof, which leaves absolutely no room for doubt. This is a guy that knows evidence. He could take what looks like an airtight case against his client and find all the flaws. He was knighted twice by Queen Elizabeth. He became a member of the Supreme Court of his country. And that was his conclusion about the evidence. By the way, I shared that story in California at a church where I just moved back in 2000. And a woman came up to me afterwards. And she said, I'm your new neighbor. You just moved into my neighborhood. You haven't met everybody yet. I live down the block. I said, oh, it's great to meet you. She said, yeah, I'm Sir Lionel's sister.
Wow.
It's his sister.
Wow.
And I said, did I tell the story accurately? She said, absolutely. She said, in fact, let me show you some of his private papers where he did his research and so forth. And so she showed me some of his private writings and stuff. He later resigned from practice of law and became an evangelist. But that's